Okay, so this is going to be quite involved, so I'll just get straight on with it. Right click, you want to start with a cube. Use the line selection tool, select any one of these edges, use G and cut it so you've got a line in the middle. Notice which axis runs through the middle of that loop, because that goes all the way around the cube. You want to rotate that, and holding the I think it's a shift key down, it wants to go 45 degrees. It doesn't matter really which way, just remember which direction you rotated it 45 degrees. And then select an end, so press space to deselect, select an end, rotate x-axis again, so rotate it to 45 degrees so it matches, then continue the rotation so you've managed a 90-degree rotation between this end face and that end face. Right, we're going to need a few of these, so select the entire object and use the duplicate tool, and you want to move it along the other axis, so the z-axis in this case. Y-axis would do, but not the x-axis. So, and you need to hold the shift key down and you need to move it so that it'll fit into the gap between itself. So whatever that is, imagine there's a cube face in there, and then you need to select both of them. So select entire object, and duplicate that vertically. So that's along the y-axis in this case. So there's the gap, and there is where they want to be. Now select all of these, right click and combine them into one object. It'll make handling them easier. I'm going to move them now along the z-axis, so I'm going to right click, not just move but duplicate. So duplicate them along the z-axis. I'm just going to step them out like that, then rotate them on the z-axis, so rotating z-axis 90 degrees, and then I'm going to duplicate another set because I need another set yet, and I'll move them back to the starting position there, and then rotate them along the other axis, which is the x-axis, so they fit up like that, just holding the shift key down so I get definite steps. Then select this one and slide it into place, so that's move, not rotate, move along the z-axis there. So that's the shape you're aiming to get with each of these twisted ones, twisted like cubes in the middle of each of the face. Now I need to put cubes in each of these corners, so right click, create a cube. Wherever that cube is, it's just there. So I select that cube and I'm going to move it along the x-axis so it fits in that corner. Duplicate it along the x-axis to the other corner there. Select both cubes and duplicate them vertically. So that's the y-axis, holding the shift key down so that exact movements. Select all 4 cubes and then duplicate them along the remaining axis, which is the z-axis. So duplicate Z, hold the shift key down and fit them in the corner. Now, providing you've been using the shift key to get exact rotations and movements, you can select the entire object, right click and weld it, and all those corners should light up red where they coincide, and you've created one shape. But the shape's got this interesting twisting, which I'm now going to take advantage of. So select one of these vertical edges, not that one, just one vertical edge on the corner there, press G, use the face tool, and you can see how that edge now wraps around the surface. I'm going to use the shell extrude, and it wants to be normal with the shift key held, not the shift key, it wants to be the control key because we want a precise value of 0.4. With that still selected, shell extrude and go normal 0.3, using the value in the top left hand corner to find out which one. Press space to deselect everything. Select object tool and take the first one you extruded and delete it. That's just giving us a gap so our shapes don't collide. Right, if that was the first corner we selected over here, use the edge tool to select the opposite one. Then press G, select face, and you can see we've got a shape within that shape now. What I'm going to do is use select and inverse, which will allow me now to smooth down the inverse of the faces that I'd select. So press smooth 3 times, 1, 2, 3, and then go select and inverse again, and use right click and intrude, and then holding the control key down, you want an intrude of 0.3. Okay, now for the outside shape we're going to do something similar. So you could select the edge, select one of the inner edges and select an outer edge, use G, select faces and smooth 3 times, 1, 2, 3, and then we've just got these sharp edges to deal with. I mean, obviously you could do other things with this shape, like you could wrap lines around it, so you could select an edge like that, use identical and then loop, and then you could get lines wrapped around it and shell extrude normal and do this kind of thing, and then smooth that down to create some interesting loops around the object. I'm not going to do that, I was just demonstrating. Or likewise, you could select the entire object, and if you use face selection here, inset, and then just inset it a little bit, it doesn't matter, then collapse that with this outer one. Because of the way it runs, you can then use these lines that are created by the cross sections to create loops. You can see that it comes out with teeth on it if you do it this way, but if you increase the face by pressing plus and then use the minus key, you can control the strips and they'll become straight at certain points, and you could shell extrude those and treat those to a similar process, but sometimes the geometry goes a bit wonky because of the precision. I was just mentioning that. Or an interesting effect, while we're on the topic, you can create like a sort of scaffolding, like I did in one of the other videos, by using the face option and insetting this, which you have to be a bit careful because we're getting quite a lot of points in this, but if you can inset it just so that the lines are sort of become invisible like that, and then intrude, you've got to get fairly close to do this and be careful. Intrude these so you create like box sections. It also depends on the speed of your computer how long it's going to take to do this, because it's obviously quite demanding. So you look at this, you create little box sections so it looks like a piece of scaffolding. But that really wasn't where I was going with that. I was just going to try and keep things simple. I'll leave you to embellish your own models there. I'll just get back to where I was before I started faffing. Okay, right, to leave this a fairly clean shape, you want to get these edges here beveled, because they're a bit sharp at the moment and that can sometimes interfere. So if I'm going for clean, I'll just smooth those down once more. I smooth the entire edge then, which is an option, I suppose. And I was going to leave the edge fairly sharp, so if I use G on the inside of these, I'll just try and make sure I've got all of them selected. That's all those edges selected. Select the face, select inverse, smooth the faces down again, but that'll leave the edges sharper. Right, when you've done that, you can select and inverse, and then get in a position where you can see this top edge. Right click, and you want to do an extrude, but only a very small one. So extrude it ever so slightly, and then you need to get hold of these lines again. So it's just a matter of selecting a few of these and hoping you've managed to find everything. I've missed one there, but you just turn the shape around and look, and then zoom in a bit and go scale uniform. And by doing it that way, you can create a chamfer on the edge of your shape like that. Aim for about 45 degrees, and that should help it to render nicely. So there you go. That's one way of creating a sort of twisted Mobius cube interlocking shape thing. So I hope you found that interesting and useful, and you'll have a go at that, creating that shape in Wings 3D and then rendering it in the renderer of your choice.